Okay, so we've moved into this little tiny house up on the sort of main road that went between Redland Bay and Carbrook. We're closer to Carbrook School, so we've started at the school. We weren't in this little house for very long. I don't know why. And it is just outside that little house where our dog got hit by a car. And so we lost him, which was devastating. And also in that little house, I had a little pet goat, and I'd forgotten to put the goat away that earlier in the afternoon, and I wanted to go out and put the goat away late at night, and I was told, no, you should have done that earlier, it's time to go to bed. Well, anyway, it was winter time, it was cold, and my little goat died overnight, which was another very sad moment. At Carbrook School, because there was only a few kids there, the older ones used to help to teach the younger ones, well, sort of not teaching, but we'd listen to their reading, or, the older ones would listen to our reading and things. So, because there was one teacher and he was the headmaster, we did have now what did she do? Actually, I'll have to ask my brother that. And I was only talking to my brother this morning about these things. What did she do? She was an old lady who lived in the area, and she used to come once a week or once a fortnight. I think she taught us singing. That's right. She was sort of our singing teacher. So we always look forward to her coming along. And then we were allowed, once every 2 weeks, I think, there used to be another lady, a mother from one of the other kids in the area. She used to pick us all up in her car, and we would go to Cleveland. No, Beenleigh, to learn how to swim. One of the real fun things that we used to do at Carbrook School was they used to come and slash the paddocks, because we had big open paddocks at the school, and every, a few months or whatever, they'd come and slash the paddocks. So what we used to do was go and rake up all the grass, and in our lunch breaks, and we would make kind of igloos out of it, little cubby houses, and we would all sit in these things and have our lunch or talk or, whatever we did. That was really cool. You just had to make your own fun. I suppose everybody used to have to do those kind of things way back then, because we didn't have what we have now, especially not at a little tiny school. We had no swings or monkey bars or, anything like that. We had nothing like that at this little school. We did have gardens that were our own gardens, and we were allowed to bring plants and put them in and grow veggies. And once every year, we would have Arbor Day, where our gardens were judged, and So building up to Arbor Day, what we used to do, we'd, have a veggie garden, and, you had to name all the veggies. But also, because we were a rural area, and particularly dairy cattle, there must have been a lot of dairy cattle around there. I think there was big dairies. We used to have to know all the parts of a cow. And we'd have to learn this prior. And what was told would define a healthy cow, or, a skinny cow, or how many ribs a cow had. And one of the farmers would bring along on the day a cow, and they would point things out on this cow, and we would have to write down on a piece of paper, answer the questions that they were talking about. And then, of course, we would get a certificate or whatever we got, a prize, a ribbon or something, if we got all the parts right. So that was really fun. And then we used to be able to train a calf of our own. Now, you would do this sort of months building up and you'd get your calf brought there on the day. Well, I remember I took my calf there one day and we led it around in a circle, and I got sort of halfway round when someone's bloody dog come up and bit my calf on the back of its foot, and it took off and dragged me with it. So that wasn't much fun. It was quite embarrassing actually, but I had no hope of controlling this calf because he was quite a size by the time I'd trained him to lead and get him there and things. Also at the little school we had a fairly large plot of sugarcane that used to be grown, and then the harvesters had come in and things. Well, we used to go and pick the sugarcane when the teacher wasn't watching, or after school or whatever. We'd go and pick the sugarcane and we'd crack it open and we'd chew on it and suck on it. So all of us were always sucking on this bloody sugarcane. I'm surprised our teeth didn't all rot out. But it was very natural. It was yummy. We used to like it, but we were always devastated when it was time to harvest it, and then we'd have to wait forever for the next lot of bloody sugarcane to come along so we could eat it. Okay, so now back to the little house and that. We went from that little house, so we were only there for a very short amount of time, a couple of months maybe, I don't know, up on the highway, but there was it was sort of on the corner of a little dirt road and then the highway. But down the end of that little dirt road, there was another house, and that's where we actually moved to, all the way down this little dirt road. And it was once again on the Logan River. But this time, we didn't have mud flats where the overspill on the high tide came up. We had our own private jetty. We had a boathouse where the boat used to go straight in, but used to sit in the water. I don't remember whose boat it was, whether it was ours or who, I don't know, but this boat was there. I think we used to use it. But to teach us to swim, because now we're really on the river and there was no buffer zone if you sort of slipped in the mud and went into the water. So what my stepfather did to teach us to swim, because we had to learn how to swim in case we fell in, he taught us the basics, how to do it on the edge of the on the grass kind of thing or whatever. Or he might have even, I think he got in the water and showed us also. But then he took us out in the tinny into the middle of the Logan River, threw us over the side and said swim back, and went and left us. And you either swam or you drowned. The Logan River's full of bull sharks. The current was huge, but we learned to swim. You either swam or you drowned. This house was quite a cute little house. It had a back veranda kind of thing that did overlook the Logan River. We were up on the hill, but the river was right in front of us. It had beautiful, beautiful big old trees around. We did have electricity there, but we still had an outdoor toilet. That was never a pleasant experience, especially as my brother and I were getting older, and we used to have to bloody dig the hole and carry this thing sloshing around and bury it. That really wasn't nice. I hate doing that job. But it was something we had to do, and we were getting older, so we had to do these things. But it had these beautiful, beautiful big trees, and I used to spend a lot of time sitting up in the trees. And I remember one time we'd been crabbing, and we caught all these crabs. But instead of cooking them on this night, my parents obviously got too intoxicated, I suppose, to cook the crabs. So they left them in hessian bags out on the deck. But the cows had come shaking the bags. And the next morning, the crabs were just all over the grass, all these beautiful big mud crabs. So we had to go and pick them all up again and cook them. But I loved crab. I love seafood. I still love seafood, and I've eaten a lot of seafood over my life. So it does have its advantages. And we fished a lot, always with fishing, us kids. We used to love to fish. But the torture and trauma and the arguments and everything still carried on. I remember a night we went to a party back down to the same people's house where they hid the car under the bush after the accident, right near where we first moved to. And obviously us kids weren't allowed out of the car. We had to stay in the car. But I did get out of the car because I needed to have a twinkle. So I went off in the grass and had a twinkle, and I was going back to the car. Whereas this friend of my parents seen me, and he said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he said, "Do you want to come for a walk with me down to the..." He was going down to the river to check on the boats. And I went, "Yeah, okay." So he just took my hand and we walked down there. He left me sort of on the jetty while he checked the boats, and then we went back up. Well, when we went back up, my parents were all in this huge big flat about, where's Loretta, what's she... And this guy was actually supposed to stay at our house that night. So he was friends with them. And anyway, I got a huge flogging for getting out of the car, and then we went home, and then this guy ended up at our house. And I remember him being outside the window saying, because my stepfather and mother are going, he's interfered with Loretta, and he never did. He never did anything wrong. But it was just an excuse, I think, for my stepfather, because I'm laying in bed. Anyway, they wouldn't allow him in the house, so he ended up leaving. I don't know where he went. But I remember laying in my bed, terrified, listening to my mother. And so I'm laying in bed listening to these two. And my stepfather's telling my mother that when a little girl is interfered with, she gets this little black dot inside her. I will leave that up to you. And he had my mother convinced that this was right and that he had to come in and check me out. Now, she never did it. She sent him into my room. And actually, this had happened a few times where she would send him into my room to check me out because he would have her convinced that he was the only person who could do it. So she allowed this man to come in to her little daughter, where her sister, or I always slept in bed with my sister. We always had a double bed, and I always slept in. So my little sister was beside me, and here's him checking me out as such. And my mother allowed it.